The betrayal. The rain hammered against the floor-to-ceiling windows of Aria Bennett's downtown Seattle office, creating a rhythmic percussion that usually calmed her racing mind. Tonight, however, nothing could soothe the anxiety twisting in her chest. She stared at the architectural renderings spread across her desk, the community center project that would define her career, but the lines blurred before her eyes. Something felt wrong, had felt wrong for weeks now, like a discordant note in an otherwise perfect symphony. At 28, Aria had built exactly the life she'd dreamed of since her university days. Her architecture firm, Bennett and Cross Design, occupied prime real estate in Pioneer Square. Her portfolio boasted sustainable buildings that had earned her recognition in Architectural Digest. And in 3 months, she would marry Marcus Chen, the man who had been her anchor for 5 years, the person who supposedly knew her better than anyone else in the world. Yet here she sat at 9 o'clock on a Friday evening, alone in her office while Marcus claimed he was working late at his financial consulting firm for the 3rd time this week. The excuses had become a pattern she could no longer ignore. Late meetings, last-minute client dinners, weekend conferences that materialized out of nowhere. Aria's phone buzzed with a text from her business partner and best friend since college, Vivian Cross. "Still at the office? You're working too hard, babe. Marcus is lucky to have someone so dedicated. See you at the gala tomorrow night." So, the gala, the firm's annual black tie event where they would announce their biggest project yet, a $50 million eco-resort on the Olympic Peninsula. It should have filled Aria with excitement, but instead, dread pooled in her stomach. She grabbed her coat and made a decision. Marcus's apartment was only 15 minutes away. She would surprise him, bring takeout from his favorite Thai restaurant, and maybe, just maybe, the surprise would rekindle the spark that seemed to have dimmed between them. 20 minutes later, Aria stood outside Marcus's building, balancing containers of pad thai and green curry while fishing for the spare key he'd given her. The doorman, Robert, greeted her with his usual warm smile. "Ms. Bennett, Mr. Chun didn't mention you were coming by tonight." "It's a surprise," she said, forcing brightness into her voice. "Is he home?" "Went up about an hour ago," Robert confirmed, holding the elevator door for her. As the elevator climbed to the 14th floor, Aria studied her reflection in the polished steel doors. Dark circles shadowed her hazel eyes, evidence of too many sleepless nights. Her chestnut hair, usually styled immaculately, was pulled into a messy bun. When had she stopped taking care of herself? When had Marcus stopped noticing? The key turned smoothly in the lock. She pushed open the door to Marcus's apartment, calling out, "Honey, I brought dinner. I know you said you were working late, but I thought..." The words died in her throat. The living room was dimly lit, candles flickering on every surface. 2 wine glasses sat on the coffee table, one bearing a lipstick stain in a shade of crimson Aria never wore. Soft music played from Marcus's expensive sound system, the jazz playlist he'd created for special occasions. Her heart began to pound. The takeout containers slipped from her numb fingers, crashing to the floor in a symphony of destruction that mirrored her breaking world. "Marcus!" Her voice came out as a whisper. Sounds from the bedroom. Laughter. A woman's voice, familiar, impossibly familiar. Aria's feet moved of their own accord, carrying her down the hallway toward Marcus's bedroom. The door stood slightly ajar, warm light spilling into the corridor. She pushed it open. Time fractured into slow motion. Marcus, shirtless, frozen in the act of kissing someone. But not just someone. Vivian, her business partner, her best friend. The woman she'd confided in about every doubt, every fear, every moment of wedding planning stress. Vivian's crimson lipstick, the same shade staining the wine glass, smeared across her mouth. Marcus's hands tangled in Vivian's platinum blonde hair. The hotel room key card from last month's solo spa weekend suddenly made perfect, terrible sense. "Aria," Marcus jerked away, his face draining of color. "This isn't... We didn't... Don't." The word came out sharp as broken glass. Aria held up one hand, surprised by how steady it appeared even as her entire body trembled. "Don't you dare insult me by lying right now." Vivian had the decency to look away, pulling Marcus's discarded shirt around her shoulders. "Arya, please, let us explain." "Explain?" Arya's laugh bordered on hysteria. "Explain what, exactly? How long you've been sleeping with my fiancé? How many times you looked me in the eye and lied? How you helped me choose my wedding dress while planning to destroy my marriage before it even started?" "It just happened," Marcus stammered, reaching for his pants. "We didn't mean for it to go this far." "How long?" Arya demanded, her voice rising. "How long?" Silence stretched between them, thick and suffocating. Finally, Vivian whispered, 8 months. 8 months. The room tilted. 8 months of lies, of stolen moments, of betrayal so complete it had rewritten Arya's entire reality. Every late night, every business trip, every time Vivian had encouraged her to give Marcus space. All of it had been a carefully constructed deception. "The Miami conference," Arya said slowly, pieces clicking into place with sickening clarity. "You both went. You said you were presenting at different sessions. We got adjoining rooms," Vivian admitted, at least having the grace to sound ashamed. "The weekend I had the flu. You brought me soup, Vivian. You sat on my couch and told me what a good man Marcus was. How lucky I was." Arya's voice cracked. "Were you sleeping with him that whole week?" Neither of them answered, which was answer enough. Arya's mind raced through every memory of the past 8 months, tainting each one with this new, poisonous knowledge. The engagement party where Marcus had seemed distant. Had he been thinking of Vivian? The firm's holiday party where Vivian had excused herself early, claiming a headache. Had she met Marcus afterward? The Valentine's Day when Marcus gave Arya roses but seemed distracted. Had he bought Vivian a gift too? "I trusted you," Arya said, looking between them. "Both of you. You were my person, Viv. My best friend since freshman year. And you?" She turned to Marcus. "I was going to marry you. I was going to build a life with you." "You can still," Marcus began. "Are you insane?" Arya cut him off. "Did you think I'd forgive this? That we'd go to couples therapy and work through it like you forgot to take out the trash? People make mistakes." Vivian tried, her voice small. "Mistakes." Arya's composure finally shattered. "A mistake is forgetting an anniversary or saying something hurtful in an argument. This is a choice. 8 months of choices. 8 months of actively deciding to betray me, to lie to my face, to laugh behind my back." "We never laughed at you," Marcus protested. "No? Then what did you do? Feel sorry for stupid, oblivious Arya while you fucked in hotel rooms? Did you discuss how pathetic I was, working late at the office while you two were together?" Tears streamed down her face now, hot and bitter. "Did you plan your future together? Discuss how you'd break the news to me?" The silence that greeted her question confirmed her worst fear. They had thought about a future. This wasn't just an affair. It was something more. Arya's phone buzzed. A text from her mother. "Can't wait for the dress fitting next week. You're going to be the most beautiful bride. Sweetheart." The dress fitting. The wedding invitations already sent. The venue booked. The honeymoon planned. The life she'd carefully constructed, now revealed as nothing more than a stage set, propped up by lies. "I want you out of the firm," Arya said to Vivian, her voice suddenly calm. The tears had stopped. Something cold and hard had settled in her chest where her heart used to beat. "Arya, be reasonable," Vivian started. "We built that firm together, and I'll buy you out. Name your price. But I never want to see your face again. You can't just watch me." Arya turned to Marcus. "The wedding is off, obviously. I'll handle the cancellations. Keep the ring. Consider it payment for 5 years of my life I'll never get back." She pulled the engagement ring, a vintage cushion-cut diamond that had belonged to Marcus's grandmother, off her finger and dropped it on the floor between them. It bounced once, twice, then rolled under the bed, disappearing into shadow. "Don't contact me, either of you, ever." Arya grabbed her purse from where she'd dropped it in the doorway. Her hands were shaking so badly she could barely grip the leather strap. "Where are you going?" Marcus asked, finally seeming to realize the magnitude of what he'd lost. Arya looked at him, really looked at him, and wondered how she'd never noticed the weakness in his jaw, the calculation in his eyes. How had she convinced herself this man was her soulmate? "Away from here. Away from you. Away from every reminder that I was stupid enough to trust the two people who should have protected me most." She walked out of the bedroom, through the living room still scattered with her dropped takeout, and out the door of Marcus's apartment. The hallway seemed to stretch endlessly before her. Each step felt like wading through concrete, but she kept moving. In the elevator, her reflection showed a stranger. A woman hollowed out, stripped of illusions. The doors opened to the lobby. Robert started to greet her cheerfully but stopped when he saw her face. "Ms. Bennett? Are you all right? Should I call someone?" "I'm fine," she lied, walking past him into the Seattle night. The rain had intensified, soaking through her coat within seconds. Arya walked without direction, without purpose, tears mixing with rainwater on her face. Her phone buzzed repeatedly. Marcus calling, texting, probably trying to explain or apologize or convince her to forgive him. She turned it off. She found herself at a small park overlooking Elliott Bay. The water stretched black and endless before her, whitecaps visible even in the darkness. How many times had she and Marcus walked along this waterfront, planning their future? How many of those moments had been real? None of them. That was the truth she had to accept. Their relationship had been built on sand, and the foundation had never been solid. While she was dreaming of forever, Marcus was already looking elsewhere. And Vivian, God, Vivian had been there through everything. First boyfriend breakups, college stress, career anxiety, family problems. Or had any of it been genuine? Arya's phone buzzed again despite being turned off. No, it was her work phone, the one she'd forgotten in her coat pocket. A reminder notification. Firm gala tomorrow, 7 p.m., Grand Ballroom. 4 Seasons. Dress, black tie. Don't forget speech notes. The gala, where she and Vivian were supposed to present a united front, celebrate their success, announce their biggest project. The thought of standing on that stage, pretending everything was fine while her world crumbled, made Arya's stomach revolt. She couldn't do it. Couldn't face the pitying looks once word got out. Couldn't watch Marcus and Vivian exchange loaded glances across the room. Couldn't maintain the facade for one more second. Arya pulled up her email and began typing with frozen fingers. To all staff and associates of Bennett and Cross Design, due to unforeseen circumstances, I will not be attending tomorrow evening's gala. Vivian Cross will handle all presentations and announcements in my absence. Effective immediately, I am taking an indefinite leave of absence from the firm. My attorney will be in contact regarding partnership dissolution and asset distribution. I wish you all continued success. Arya Bennett. She hit send before she could second-guess herself. Then she opened a new email to her assistant. Book me a one-way flight out of Seattle. Destination doesn't matter. First available. Also, find me a furnished apartment rental in another city, Portland, San Francisco, anywhere but here. 2-month minimum. Money is not an object. I need to leave by morning. The responses came quickly. Her assistant was nothing if not efficient. A 6 a.m. flight to Portland. A furnished loft in the Pearl District available immediately. A rental car reservation. Everything she needed to disappear. Arya sat on that park bench until dawn began to lighten the sky, watching the city wake up around her. Ferries crossed the Sound. Early joggers passed by. The world continued spinning as if her life hadn't just imploded. Her work phone buzzed with dozens of messages. Staff confused about her email. Vivian calling repeatedly. Marcus begging for a chance to explain. She ignored them all. At 5:30, Arya stood and walked toward her apartment. She had 30 minutes to pack a bag before heading to the airport. 30 minutes to gather what she could carry and leave everything else behind. As she packed, she avoided looking at the photographs scattered throughout her apartment, her and Marcus at Christmas, her and Vivian at their firm's opening, the three of them at last year's gala, grinning like they had the world figured out. She would deal with all of this later. Or never. Right now, she just needed to escape. The Uber to the airport arrived at 5:50. Arya took one last look at her apartment, at the life she was leaving behind, and closed the door without locking it. Let Marcus come get his things. Let Vivian deal with the fallout of the cancelled gala. Let them both drown in the consequences of their choices. She was done being the fool in their story. Done being the obstacle to their happiness. Done being anything to anyone in this city. As the plane lifted off from Seattle-Tacoma Airport, Arya watched Seattle shrink beneath her, the morning light turning the water to gold. Somewhere down there, Marcus was probably panicking. Vivian was probably trying to salvage the gala, spinning some story about Arya's sudden departure. But up here, above the clouds, Arya felt something unexpected. Not quite peace, but possibility. She had been broken, yes, shattered completely, but broken things could be remade, and sometimes they came back stronger. The flight attendant offered her a drink.
Arya requested champagne.
Celebrating something? The attendant asked with a smile. Arya thought about it, then smiled back. A real smile, the first in what felt like years. An ending, she said. And maybe a beginning. She raised her glass to the window, to the clouds, to the unknown future waiting in Portland. To falling apart, she whispered, and to whatever comes next. The champagne tasted like freedom, the transformation. 2 years later, Arya stood in her Portland office, studying the skyline she'd come to know as intimately as her own heartbeat. The Pearl District stretched before her, all industrial chic renovations and art galleries, a neighborhood that had reinvented itself just as she had. The brass nameplate on her door read, Bennett Architectural Studio, in elegant lettering. No partner's name attached. No shared dreams to disappoint her. The morning light caught the edges of the architectural models scattered across her workspace. A sustainable community library, an affordable housing complex that merged beauty with functionality, a meditation center built into a hillside. Each project bore her singular vision, uncompromised and authentic. Her work had been featured in Dwell magazine last month, and the phone hadn't stopped ringing since. Arya, your 9 o'clock is here, her assistant Maya announced through the intercom. Julian Stone from Stone Development Group. Arya checked her reflection in the window, her chestnut hair now cut in a sleek bob that skimmed her shoulders, her hazel eyes clear and confident, her charcoal suit tailored to perfection. She looked nothing like the rain-soaked, devastated woman who had fled Seattle 24 months ago. That version of herself felt like a stranger now, someone she'd known in another lifetime. Send him in. The man who entered her office commanded attention without demanding it. Julian Stone was tall, perhaps 6'2", with dark hair silvering at the temples and eyes the color of aged whiskey. His suit was Seville Row, his watch understated but expensive, his handshake firm without being aggressive. Ms. Bennett, thank you for seeing me. His voice carried a hint of old money and East Coast education, but his smile reached his eyes. I've been following your work. The Riverside Commons project was brilliant, sustainable design that doesn't sacrifice aesthetics. Exactly what I'm looking for. Arya gestured to the conference table. You mentioned a significant project in your email, Mr. Stone. Something that would redefine Portland's waterfront.
I'm intrigued.
Please call me Julian. He opened his portfolio, spreading renderings and site plans across the table. I've acquired the old Morrison Cannery site, 12 acres of prime waterfront real estate. My vision is to create a mixed-use development that serves the community, not just wealthy buyers. Affordable housing, public parks, local retail space, art installations. Something that honors Portland's character rather than gentrifying it into oblivion. Arya leaned forward, studying the site plans. The Morrison Cannery had been abandoned for 15 years, a rusting eyesore on valuable land. Most developers would have built luxury condos and called it progress. This is ambitious. The costs alone. I'm not interested in the fastest profit, Julian interrupted gently. I'm interested in legacy. My grandmother grew up 3 blocks from this site. She worked in that cannery during World War II. Before she passed last year, she made me promise I'd do something meaningful with the property if I ever had the chance. He met Arya's eyes. I have the funding. What I need is an architect who understands that buildings should serve people, not the other way around. Something in his words resonated deep in Arya's chest. The same philosophy that had driven her work since she'd started over in Portland. Architecture as service, as community building, as art that people could live inside. I'd need complete creative control, she said, testing him. I don't do cookie-cutter designs or compromise my vision for profit margins. I wouldn't expect anything less. I've read your interviews, Ms. Bennett. You have principles. That's precisely why I'm here. Julian smiled. Though I should warn you, I'm not a pushover client. I'll challenge you, question your choices, demand explanations. But only to make the project better, never to diminish it. Good, Arya said, returning his smile. I don't trust clients who agree with everything I say. It usually means they're not paying attention. They spent the next 3 hours diving into the project, discussing sustainability requirements, community input processes, timeline expectations, budget parameters. Julian proved to be everything he'd promised. Engaged, knowledgeable, and willing to invest in quality. He'd done his research on building materials, understood the permitting process, and had already begun community outreach. When Maya knocked to remind Arya of her lunch appointment, both were surprised to discover the morning had vanished. I've kept you too long, Julian said, gathering his materials. But I hope this means you're considering the project? I'm more than considering it. I'm in. Arya extended her hand. Let's create something Portland will be proud of. Julian's handshake lingered a moment longer than professional, his eyes holding hers with an intensity that sent an unexpected flutter through her stomach. I have a feeling this is going to be the beginning of something remarkable, Arya. After he left, Maya appeared in the doorway, eyebrows raised significantly. Well, he's gorgeous, successful, and seemingly decent. Should I start planning the office romance? Don't be ridiculous, Arya said, but she couldn't quite suppress her smile. He's a client. Professional boundaries, remember? Aha, you keep telling yourself that, boss. Over the following weeks, those professional boundaries became increasingly difficult to maintain. Julian was attentive without being overbearing, showing up to weekly meetings with fresh ideas and genuine enthusiasm. He remembered details, that Arya took her coffee black with a touch of cinnamon, that she preferred morning site visits when the light was best, that she got cranky when she hadn't eaten by 2 o'clock. I brought lunch, he announced one Thursday afternoon, appearing at her office with bags from her favorite Vietnamese restaurant. Maya mentioned you've been here since 6 this morning without a break. You're conspiring with my assistant now? Arya asked, but accepted the banh mi gratefully. Someone has to make sure you remember to eat. Julian settled into the chair across from her desk. You're passionate about your work. I admire that. But passion doesn't replace nutrition. They ate together, talking about everything except the project. Portland's music scene, their favorite books, terrible movies they secretly loved. Julian had studied architecture himself before pivoting to development, had spent 2 years in the Peace Corps building schools in Guatemala, spoke 3 languages, and admitted to a weakness for terrible puns that made Arya groan and laugh simultaneously. Why development instead of architecture? Arya asked, wiping sriracha from her chin. You clearly have the eye for it. Honestly, I realized I'm better at making things happen than designing them. I can see potential in spaces, understand what communities need, navigate the political and financial complexities. But the creative vision, that's why I need people like you. He paused. My father wanted me to take over his hedge fund. We had a spectacular falling out when I told him I'd rather build communities than investment portfolios. Daddy issues, Arya teased. Classic. What about you? Where's your family? The question landed like a stone in still water. Arya set down her sandwich. My parents retired to Arizona 3 years ago. We talk once a month, maybe. They didn't understand why I left Seattle so suddenly. Why I dissolved a successful partnership. Why I'd start over in a new city. She kept her voice carefully neutral. I never told them about Marcus and Vivian. Just said the partnership wasn't working out. Marcus and Vivian, Julian repeated softly. The people who hurt you. Aria's head snapped up. I never mentioned. You didn't have to. Maya might have let something slip, but mostly, I can see it. The way you flinch when couples are too affectionate in public. How you change the subject whenever personal relationships come up. The fact that a woman as remarkable as you doesn't seem to date. He held up his hands. I'm not prying. Your past is your business. I just want you to know that I see you, Arya. All of you. And whoever they were idiots to lose you. The vulnerability in his eyes, the genuine care, nearly undid her. For 2 years, she'd kept everyone at arm's length, focused solely on rebuilding her career and her sense of self. She'd gone on exactly 3 dates, all of which ended with her making excuses and fleeing before dessert. The idea of trusting someone again, of letting them close enough to hurt her, had seemed impossible. But Julian's steady presence, his patience, the way he showed up without demanding anything in return, it was slowly dismantling her defenses. They were my fiancé and my business partner, she heard herself say. Best friend since college. I found them together 3 months before my wedding. 8 months they'd been sleeping together. 8 months of lies. Julian's jaw tightened.
Christ, Arya. I'm sorry.
I'm not. Not anymore. And as she said it, Arya realized it was true. It hurt like hell at the time. Felt like my whole life was built on quicksand. But leaving Seattle, starting over here, it forced me to figure out who I was without someone else's validation. I like who I've become. I'm proud of the work I'm doing. And I'm happy. She met his eyes. Actually happy. Not just pretending. You should be proud. You're incredibly talented. Julian stood, gathering their lunch trash. And for what it's worth, I hope someday you'll trust someone enough to let them be part of that happiness. You deserve that, Arya. To be chosen, treasured. Not as someone's second choice or dirty secret, but as someone's priority. After he left, Arya sat in her office for a long time, staring at the Morrison Cannery renderings. Julian's words echoed in her mind, gentle but insistent, like water wearing away stone. The project consumed the next 6 months. Arya threw herself into the design with an intensity that surprised even her. The Morrison Commons, as they'd named it, became her magnum opus, 3 mid-rise buildings arranged around a central park, rooftop gardens bursting with native plants, community spaces that invited gathering and connection, affordable units designed with as much care as the market-rate ones. Julian was there through all of it, sitting through community meetings that ran until midnight, fighting with the city council for zoning variances, securing grants for the public art installations. They became a team, finishing each other's sentences, communicating in architectural shorthand and shared glances. And somewhere in those months, without Arya quite realizing when it happened, Julian became something more than a client. She noticed the way her heart lifted when his name appeared on her phone. How she found herself dressing more carefully on days they had meetings. The electricity that sparked when their hands accidentally brushed over blueprints. The way his laugh made her feel lighter, like she might actually float away if she wasn't careful. You're falling for him, Maya observed one evening as they locked up the office. I am not, Arya protested. But even to her own ears it sounded weak. Boss, you light up like a Christmas tree when he walks in the room. And he looks at you like you hung the moon. It's actually kind of disgusting how perfect you are together. It's professional. It stopped being just professional about 4 months ago, and you know it. Maya squeezed her shoulder. It's okay to let yourself be happy, Arya. Not everyone is going to hurt you like they did. That night, unable to sleep, Arya found herself scrolling through her old social media accounts. Something she hadn't done since leaving Seattle. Morbid curiosity drove her to search for Marcus's profile. The first photo made her breath catch. Marcus and Vivian, arms around each other at some rooftop bar, looking significantly less happy than they probably intended. The comments were telling. Cute couple. How long have you been together? Since last summer, Vivian had replied. Last summer. They'd made it official almost immediately after Arya left. She scrolled further, photos from the firm's gala 2 years ago, Vivian giving the presentation alone, no mention of Arya's abrupt departure. Then, gradually, fewer photos together. Marcus looking strained. Vivian's smile not reaching her eyes. The most recent post was from Vivian, dated 3 months ago. Sometimes the person you think is your forever is just a chapter. Grateful for new beginnings and lessons learned. Arya clicked on Marcus's profile. His most recent post. When you realize the grass isn't always greener. Some mistakes can't be undone. #regrets, #lessons learned. So, it had fallen apart, just as Arya had known it would. Relationships built on betrayal rarely survived. The foundation was too rotten, the trust too compromised. They destroyed what they had for each other, only to discover they didn't actually want what they'd won. Arya should have felt vindicated, should have felt satisfaction at their apparent misery. Instead, she felt nothing. Not pity, not anger, not even the bitter satisfaction of schadenfreude. Just a distant curiosity, like reading about strangers in a newspaper. She'd moved on. Actually, genuinely moved on. Her phone buzzed with a text from Julian. Can't sleep. Thinking about the park design. Want to meet for coffee tomorrow morning? Early? I know a place that opens at 6. Arya smiled, typing her response. You're insane. Yes. See you there. The coffee shop was nearly empty when Arya arrived at 6:15, Portland still waking up around her. Julian sat in a corner booth, 2 cups already on the table, sketches spread before him. You weren't kidding about the park design, Arya said, sliding into the seat across from him. Actually, I lied. Julian met her eyes, setting down his pen. I've been thinking about it all night, but not the park. You. This thing between us that we keep pretending is purely professional. Arya's heart began to pound. Julian, let me finish, please. He reached across the table, stopping just short of taking her hand. I know you've been hurt. I know trusting someone again terrifies you, and I know I'm probably breaking every professional boundary by saying this. But Arya, I'm falling in love with you. Have been for months. And I can't keep pretending I'm not. The words hung between them, honest and terrifying, and exactly what Arya wanted to hear and feared most. I can't promise I won't hurt you, Julian continued. No one can promise that. But I can promise I'll never lie to you. Never betray you. Never make you question whether you're my priority, because you are. You have been since that first meeting. Arya's throat tightened. What if I can't do this? What if I'm too damaged, too scared, too? Then we'll figure it out together. Or we won't, and at least we tried. Julian finally took her hand, his thumb tracing circles on her palm. But I think you're braver than you give yourself credit for. You left everything behind and built something beautiful from scratch. That takes courage. Letting yourself love again? That's just another kind of courage. She looked at their joined hands, at this man who'd somehow slipped past her defenses without forcing anything, who'd shown her through consistent action that not everyone would betray her trust. I'm terrified, she admitted. Me too. What if we ruin the project? We won't. We're both too professional. And too invested in making something great. What if? Julian stood, pulling her up with him. Arya, stop thinking. Just for 1 minute, stop analyzing and protecting yourself and being afraid. What do you want? What did she want? To be safe, always, never vulnerable again. But also to feel alive, to be seen, to trust someone enough to let them in, even knowing it might hurt. She looked up at Julian, at his patient eyes and gentle smile and the hope written across his face, and made a choice. I want to try, she whispered. I want to be brave enough to try. He kissed her then, soft and sweet and full of promise. And for the first time in 2 years, Arya felt something she'd thought was lost forever. The possibility of a future she hadn't planned, with someone who chose her first. When they finally pulled apart, both were grinning like teenagers. "So," Julian said, "I should probably tell you, I have a business trip to Seattle next month. Real estate conference. 3 days. I'd like you to come with me, present the Morrison Commons project to some potential investors."
Arya froze.
Seattle. I know. If it's too soon, I understand. But,
No.
Arya straightened her shoulders, feeling that same courage Julian had spoken about rising in her chest. "I'll go. It's been 2 years. I can face my past. Especially if you're there with me." "You're sure?" She kissed him again, longer this time. "I'm sure. Besides, it'll be good to see how small my old life looks from where I'm standing now." What Arya didn't know, couldn't have known, was that Seattle had one more surprise waiting for her. That the conference Julian mentioned would be held at the same hotel where her firm's gala had taken place 2 years ago. And that Marcus Chun, desperate and failing, would be there too. The past, it seemed, wasn't quite finished with her yet. But this time, Arya wouldn't be facing it alone.